The North American OV-10 Bronco was a lightweight, two-seat, twin-engine, two-boomed attack aircraft used in Vietnam and other theatres for counterinsurgency and target marking, amongst other things. ICM has already made a kit of this in 1/48th, which is excellent. They've now made one in 1/72nd scale. I've got one, I've made it. Why don't I show you how I got on, right here on Gary's Stuff. Hi there, I'm Gary and welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been before. Today indeed is build day on the kit of the week, that kit being the OV-10A Bronco in 1/72nd scale from ICM. Now, if you're just thinking about getting one of these, probably best if you have a look at the box opening video that's already available. And of course, if you're just interested in the aircraft, there's already a context video as well, talking about the history of the Bronco and what other kits are available in the marketplace. If you've got one of these on the way or in your stash and want to know how to put it together, this is very much the video for you. Now, if you want to catch out any other things I do here, do please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and you'll be notified of all my future videos as they're published. And of course, anything you see on my channel you like, please do remember to give it the imperial thumbs up on the like button below, because every like counts. And if you want to give a bit of support in a slightly more concrete way, you can do that through super thanks by becoming a channel member, or indeed by going through any of my online affiliate programs. Now, just so you know, this kit was sent to me as a free review sample by the lovely people at ICM. However, they are not paying me to give you any specific opinions. Everything you hear is my own opinion and it's honestly held, so that's out of the way now. Let's crack on and see how I built this 1/72nd scale OV-10 Bronco from ICM. Okay, we're going to start this kit off with the ejection seats at the front. The back here fits into the base here like this. Just glue it in place. In each seat there's a base cushion that goes in, like so. Then there's this tiny ejection seat initiator handle that goes on the top on the left side, like so. The rear seat then sits on its launch pack. There's this square recess and a peg at the top of the rail. Just glue them together. Then the whole seat sits on the launch rail that connects it to the aircraft. A couple of pegs and a couple of recesses on the rail. The front seat I'll do differently. I'll start with this plate that the launch pack sits against. Then there's the launch rail, and you'll notice the horn-like things at the top. These are supports for the canopy framing. Then when the rail assembly is done, just pop the ejection seat on the front like so. I'm going to paint the interior in this very vivid blue. And I'm using ICM's own paints here. Acrylics, of course. They're designed for brush painting, so they're relatively thick and the colour density is quite good already. Yeah, they're pretty easy to work with, actually, quite nice. The rear seat just sits into place at the back of the cockpit tub. Now, you'll see I've painted the seat up. The structure is in the interior blue-grey. The base and the back are in black with a decal in the back, and the headrest is a leather colour, again, with a decal in it. The initiator handle is yellow. Maybe I'll need to put a spot of yellow on the right armrest as well. Then there are some side panels to go in. Just push them up against the stops on the floor. On the port side, which is the left looking forward, is this throttle quadrant for the rear seat. Just fit it into place and secure with a dab of glue. Then the rear seat control column crossmember goes in, again, secure with a spot of glue. The rudder pedals go in here. Of course, ultimately, you've got to take your own position on these sort of things. I'm doing them because they're in here and I've got to do everything that's in here, pretty much. Would I be doing these if I were building this for myself? Well, I don't know, because I'm going to have this as a closed cockpit, so I'm not entirely sure you'll ever see these. But there's also that thing about, the completing things, being complete in everything you do. And this is one of those things, I guess. Right, so let's try and put the crossbar into the rudder pedals like so. There. This could be tricky. That's rudder pedal bar goes there and it goes in there. Look at that, fantastic. Okay, so let that dry, and when it is dry we can just paint these pedals silver. Now that rear pilot seat, rudder bar assembly goes in here. Now you can see how there's like these ridges on the back here and there's ridges on the floor. Well, those need to meet up because that kind of locks it all in place. So it's a little fiddly. If you've pre-painted it, this is a lot fiddly. Not more fiddly, I should say. But it will go in. There we go, that's it, like that. Okay, so you can see the kind of angle we've got here, how the rudder bars are down there and stuff, and how these kind of line up. Actually, that doesn't line up quite right, so it's not quite, oh, there we go. There we go. We can put the rear instrument panel into the top of this mounting like so. Like this. There we go. So it sits kind of backwards slightly at an angle, like that. And then just paint the backs of these all in black. Now the forward ejection seat slides into this hole here, but also sits in front of this ridge here, so that's what sets where it goes, like so. Okay, like that. The front control column can go in, like so. Then the rudder pedals can go in here. Again, these are really tiny. There's going to be stuff on top of them, so if you're not happy about putting really small things in, then it's not the end of the world if you don't, I don't think. Again, I'm doing it because I kind of have to. Then these side panels go in, they go inside these guide rails, if you like, there. Inside those, bit of extra thin cement to put them in place. There's one on the other side as well. Okay, this is part of the nose wheel base, so it's also the front of the cockpit tub. This goes on like so. And these side panels go in here, side switch panels, and there's the throttle quadrant for the front seat pilot that goes in that side, and there's another panel on the other side. So they fit in here, they fit in right up against this bulkhead we built earlier, and there's a little notch in this supporting wall here that they sit in as well, and they get painted black. We put the instrument panel, the front instrument cluster, into the coaming at the front here like this. Then the front instrument panel and set goes in here, rests up against that nose wheel bulkhead we put in earlier. So. And now for the beginning of the thing I'm really not happy with about this model. In fact, it's happened to a lot of models and from various manufacturers, is that you have to put the nose gear assemblies in before you get to a point where you spray the model. Not a fan of it, I must admit. I'm not a fan of it. In this case, it's not the actual nose gear. What this is the actuators for the undercarriage doors, but they have to go in first because there's other parts that go on top, and that's just the way life is. Now you see here this grey pipe here. Rather foolishly, when I was making this, I cut this white pipe, this grey pipe, and the door actuators, nose door gear actuators, off the sprue, off the frame, put them on the worktop, and thought that would be fine. I'll put them all together. What happened? Of course, one of them went missing. This, in fact, this grey one here now, because this part is on a C frame. You get 2 copies of C frames, and if there's only one of the thing that you're supposed to have, such as this little pipe, or indeed this larger pipe, or indeed this bulkhead, you get 2 copies of it, which is excellent. So with a lot of parts, you do have a safety net, especially some really, really small parts. You do have a little bit of a safety net. The next thing we're going to do is put on these undercarriage doors. We're going to fit into these slots on the bottom of the well here, and obviously sit up against the actuators there. Now the thing here is, you're also supposed to put in the nose gear leg at this point. It hinges inside, on the inside part of this, and you're not supposed to glue it. Do you know what? I'm tempted to glue it anyway, because it's a real pain in the backside to do this. To get this to sit, you can see the hole here has to sit inside that hole on each side, and then don't glue it. Well, I'm not entirely sure how I'm supposed to keep it in place if I don't glue it, but anyway, we'll try it that way. Maybe if I put the other door in as well. Okay, so here is the part. I'm just going to locate it in the 2 holes. So there we go, like that. that's quite a fiddly little thing. But what we're going to do now is put this actuator rod in, and that's going to hold this in place. I think that's why you don't glue it immediately, is because you haven't put this bit in yet. Once that bit's in, I'm going to hang the instructions. I'm going to glue that, glue that, glue that, glue that, and glue the whole lot. Then it's going to be nice and solid. So here's the actuator arm for the nose gear. Let's tempt these two into some sort of liaison. Once it's in place, it'll be quite strong because it's sort of two triangles. There we go. So, right, so we got that's gone in there, that's gone into the back of the leg there, that's gone into the slot there, and then next thing we're going to do is put the base of the fuselage in. What you have to do is just make sure these prongs go either side of the undercarriage doors here. Once you've got them on there, you see you just slide this whole thing in, and there's a square peg that locates it. There we go. So then that's fine. Obviously you can't go any further forward than the gear actuator leg there, otherwise you're in problems. But I'm not going to glue the front end of this yet. I'm going to wait until I've got the rest of the fuselage in, then make sure it glues in this way. But for the moment, there we go. We're getting there. It's beginning to look a lot like a Bronco. So for the two halves of the fuselage here, I've given the interiors a paint of the blue-grey interior colour. Comes with the set of paints, if you get the set of paints with the kit. I've then applied a wash, it's like a water-based black wash, just to murky it up a bit. You know, these things were never all that clean, except when they were delivered from the factory. Obviously, it gives you some really nice dark shadows in the panels and stuff like that. So what I've then done is just gone over these ribs with that pure color again to give a highlight, because whenever we create shadows, what do we need to do? We need to add highlights. Always, always, always do that, and your shadow lines will look fantastic if you add a highlight as well. Now, on the inside also, I just picked out a few bits and pieces. These are just bits of the moulding. I've picked them out in, some of them I've picked out in black. I think they'll just be little switch boxes or whatever. This comes as an extra part that goes on. I think it's like a map case. I just added to emphasize that shadow there a little bit. I haven't gone totally crazy on the interior because I'm having the windows closed. Now, just before we glue the fuselage together, the instructions say to add 5 grams of nose weight, and they suggest it goes in here. I'll be using some flattened shot to do this, but I'll add it once the fuselage has set up. The side panels locate very cleanly to the base of the fuselage. I'm going to secure the part near the sponsons first, then finish the front end later when both sides have gone on. The other half goes on now. Just work around the parts to get them fitting closely. The next thing is to assemble one on each side, of course, are the weapon sponsons now. The two halves go together, but there are parts for the front where the machine guns go and this side fairing as well. So put these together first and then we'll add the other bits on the side. When the sponsons are complete, we can put them into the fuselage like so. So the last thing I've done on the base here is I've put on this central mounting pylon. I'm going to use this for the fuel tank. There are these 4 sort of stabilization posts or whatever keep the fuel tank in place. These are really tiny, and you only get the 4 of them, so be really, really careful with these, okay? And I've also put on this rear door part for the nose undercarriage. That is this whole compartment now finished for the moment. I will be putting on the guns later on, and of course I'll be putting on the nose wheel later on. But apart from those, this is it for the moment. So I'll move on to the wings. So the first thing about the wing construction is here on the, I think it's the upper surface here, there's this rib that goes along. I need to get that in place. This is what the flaps are anchored by, so just need to glue that in place. Now, if you're planning on using weapons propellants on the wings, just like I am, then you'll need to drill out the holes here in the underside of the outer part of the wings, and these are 1mm holes. Then just start gluing in the lower wing panels in place. So we're going to do the flaps now. They come in 4 segments. Each segment is identical. They all have the same part numbers. So the bottom of the flap goes into the top of the flap. Then there's this leading edge slat that sits on top, and then the whole thing glues into the wing. There are 4 of these, 2 on each side. The slots have got these little locating pins and locating holes, so you know where they go. Right, so very nice Fowler flaps. And then when they're all assembled, the flaps simply sit into the back of the wings like this. Then the ailerons go in a similar manner, like so. Now, behind each engine in position here, there is a little kind of sort of relief flap, I guess. Don't know if it's like a pressure relief, you know, a air spill valve or something like that. Anyway, it just sits there. I guess you can have it open or closed. I kind of like to have it partly open, maybe. See if we can achieve that. So we could put a bit of cement in, and then just hooch it up a bit. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that kind of looks cool. There's one on the other wing, obviously. There's this little hump goes on there as well. Some, I don't know, radio antenna or something like that. I don't know what it is. But it has to go on, and so it's gone on. Now, there are other things to put on here. There should be a kind of an actuator thing that goes on here, and there's a mass balance top and bottom here. I'm going to leave those till a bit later because I know me. I'll be doing this stuff and I'll knock those off. So I'll wait a bit later until we're ready, kind of to paint them probably before putting them on. Just remember to do it. Now, I was having a little trouble getting it absolutely right. So the issue is with the cross member, the thing that all the flaps hang off and whatever. So all I've done is I've just chopped this forward a bit. The location is done by these ends. The support is done by here and here anyway, so it doesn't matter if these are sort of chopped a bit forward. And then, with that done, we can just slot it on, and the fit is absolutely spot on. So if you're having trouble fitting the wing, getting this seam right and these seams right, what it is probably interference from that cross member, either take the cross member down underneath there, or just take those recesses down, and the wing fits absolutely perfectly. Right, now I'm going to put the canopy together. The first thing I've done is here, there's like a weapons sight here. I painted that on the sprue just with black all the way around, so the middle is still clear. Then I've glued it to the top of the frame there, and I'm going to then glue the canopy, well, the windshield, in to the front of the aircraft, like so. Go like that. Now I'm using a PVA crystal magic glue to put this in. So each time you put something, you have to let it really settle down and set in and dry properly before you put the rest of the parts in. But there's only 4 parts to the whole thing anyway. Before we can start putting tail booms together, there's a couple of holes on each side need to be drilled. These are 0.8 millimeters. We can then start putting in the undercarriage doors in each side. No matter whose kit of this airplane you get, this is definitely the bit you least look forward to doing, the undercarriage. So, first of all, we've got these 2 parts here, this big thing here, which is the main leg, I guess, and then this part here, sort of, there's a little peg and a little hole there. They go along together. Let's put a little bit of, tiny bit of glue on it. This was fiddly at 1/48th, 1/72. It's going to be interesting to say the least. There we go. Now, the problem with this is it's really not clear which way round this goes. That way round or that way round. Let me see if I can figure this out. It's going to go onto this back plate eventually. That bit's going to face that way. That bit's going to face that way. This is really, really difficult to figure out. That's going to go that way round. So this is going to go there, which means it has to go that way around. Okay. Except that's that way around. You know what? I'm going to see how this goes. I'm just going to clip this in. Well, first of all, you've got to put it on. Okay, there we go. So that's on like that. I'm guessing this is right. I have no idea if this is right or wrong at the moment. What they're saying is now to put this on here. I guess this is where we find out whether it's right or wrong. Okay, it goes on like that. But that doesn't look right at all to me. This is all about trial and error, because these instructions, generally speaking, the instructions are fine, but sometimes there's a thing where, because they stick religiously to the same projection or same direction, I'll show you, it's difficult from this to see which way round that part goes, I think. Maybe that's right. I think that's right anyway. So that's the way around I'm going to try it. Because you can see here that the markings on the mounting plate kind of look a bit like. Right, okay, so this is the way around it goes. It's really complicated. If you look at the hub, wheel hub here, there's the actual, there's a wheel, that's the actual wheel hub this side. And this is bigger part, and that goes here. And you can see this is offset slightly to the right. So the left one pokes out further than the right one does. It's the leg is actually offset slightly. And that's like reflected in these lines down here. So we have this Y piece here matched up with the Y piece here. Then the main leg obviously has to poke backwards, and it kind of bends around like this towards that sort of narrower side. It's not making much sense, I know, but that seems to be how it all works. I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes before I continue. This is the completed undercarriage box, as it were. So we've got the Y-frame here connected up to the leg here. That's hinged there. This piece comes down and cements into here. So here, here, and here is cemented. That can now be glued as well because it's not going anywhere. There's a piece that's gone in here, this U-shaped piece here, which is, I think, the door opening. And there's a two-part thing here. I have no idea what this is, but there's two bits of it. There's like a wedge-shaped bit, and then there's a front plate with these arms on. That goes on as well. So that's pretty much that side of the wheels done. We now have to put that into the aircraft, into the boom, and put two sides of the boom together. And then just put the other half of the boom into place. Clip it up and glue it all there. Then we just put in the base of the in there, like so. Next thing is to put the rudders in. They just slot straight into place. No worries about that. And that's the boom basically done. What I've also added here, there's a piece here, a face piece that holds the propeller stub axle here. That's gone on. The jet exhaust has gone on here, and there's an inlet that goes on here, some sort of coolant inlet, no doubt, something like that. Okay, so that's all done. There are a couple of other bits and pieces that do go on here, but we'll leave those for the while. The tailplane comes in two halves. You fit them together. Then the elevator goes on the back. Now the elevator has got these two actuator tracks here. They go on the top, as does this. I presume actually it's supposed to be a nav light or something like that. There's nothing on the underside, so I'm presuming it's a navigation light. And they go together. And then now we can put the booms into place. A little bit fiddly to get them in. There we go. Get them in, line them up, and make sure they line up along this back. The spine of the boom here lines up nicely, which it does. Very good. Same for the other side. There it goes. It clicks into place almost. There we go. Yeah, that's cool. Just tape all that up. Tape those up and we'll be fine. Then the last thing to do is just to slip the tailplane into place between the two booms. Like so. As you can see here, I've dropped in some flattened shot into this forward compartment. It's more than 5 grams, I'm sure, but it does keep the nose down, which is what I wanted. There we go. And you can't see it from the outside, so just flattened bits of lead shot, just dropped in bit by bit, just to make sure they all sit nicely in the compartment there. And then I just dropped a bit of super glue in to keep it all in place. So that works really nicely. I've put a coat of primer on and I'm going to attempt some pre-shading. First thing to do is to trace the panel lines with black. I'm using my regular 0.38mm airbrush at about 15 psi or 1.1 bar, and I've got ICM black paint thinned 50-50 with thinners and a few drops of flow improver. When the black has dried, because I use grey primer, I'm going to highlight the middle of some of the panels with white. This is Model Air white, just thinned very slightly with a few drops of flow improver, probably about sort of 5 to 10%. Just keep going until you've got all the panels lined in black and then the middle of the panels highlighted with a bit of white. And let that set. Let that cure, I should say. Once the highlights and lowlights have cured, I'm adding thin coats of the top colour. Here it's the ICM US Camouflage Green I was supplied with. Again, I've diluted it 50-50 with thinners and a few drops of flow improver. This time I'm spraying about 20 psi or 1.4 bar. Thing is, I can lay down a coat, then use the air from the airbrush to dry it in seconds, then lay down more paint until I've got the effect I'm after, and it comes out in this beautiful matte finish. While I've got this just sort of drying up before I go around and touch up everything, all the bits of paint and everything, the front undercarriage bar here is the only tricky part. The rest of the undercarriage is fine. But you see, you've got the main stem of the undercarriage comes up here. Then you've got like a little Y frame that sticks out here and engages here with this part, which is sort of floats, and it sort of pivots on the undercarriage leg here, and then this Y frame sort of holds it in place. But it's all, you just have to fiddle around with it. Use regular glue, I suspect, is the best thing to do. Put that on, and then just slot that on. It goes onto the main leg there, and then there's a little bar bit here, and it sort of clamps around it. It's tricky, but it goes. It does go there eventually. It's just a little bit tricky. The other thing to do at this point is just go around everywhere, putting on all the other little bits of bars and balance horns on the controls and everything else. Then you're pretty much ready to give it a final varnish. Obviously, you've already gone around and done the decals as well. The propeller just sits on top of the back plate, like so. Then the boss or spinner, call it what you like, just sits on top and gets glued into place like that. And when they're done, the propeller can sit on the front of the engine nacelle like this. And with all of the varnish dry, it's time to take off the masks. And then we're finished. I didn't know what this kit was going to be. I I thought to myself, do you know, I love the 148th and I hope the 172nd lives up to it, and it absolutely does. The fit is beautiful, the detail's lovely. There's a couple of tricky bits. The undercarriage can be a little tricky. The one thing I would say to them to change is the pitot. Putting it on one half of the fuselage moulding, it's there all the way through the build. It's going to get knocked off. It did get knocked off mine. In fact, I lost it. I had to make up another one to sit in its place, which isn't as pretty. However, having said that, the detail on the fuselage is exquisite. The weapons are a nice selection and very detailed as well. The transparent parts, very clean, very easy to put together, which is, quite surprised with that massive greenhouse at the front end. Decals, maybe a little delicate, maybe a little thin, but you know what? If you're careful, they'll go on nicely. And they're printed well. So, all in all, you've got a large choice of schemes. I think it's an absolutely lovely kit. Would I build another one? Absolutely, yes, I would. Would I recommend it to you as a 172nd Bronco? Totally. It's not for the beginner. It's not for the absolute beginner because there's a lot of fiddly things in there. But view it as like an Airfix Sage scale 2.5, 3 skill level. And it's beautiful. I really enjoyed making it. Now that 148 scale one I built last year, the Bronco, the first release of the Bronco, that was a big kit for ICM, I think. It really established them right up in the top level of players. And it was a great kit to build of a really very, very popular aircraft. They've done lots of reboxings of it, companion boxings, all sorts of things with it. But it's a lovely kit. When you've got something as good as that and you try and scale it down, sometimes you can have major problems because, the detail goes funny, or, you've got to worry about getting the thickness of the walls, correcting the plastic, the fit of the plastic changes, and all that. I think ICM have done an astonishingly good job with this kit. The fit has been remarkable. It was just a joy to do. The only one thing I would have done differently is have that blasted pitot tube as a separate part and not molded into one fuselage half, because it gets broken. There's so many kits, not just from ICM, but in fact from Airfix and from other manufacturers, where bits get molded on and you look at them and you think that is not going to survive the process, and 99 times out of 100 they don't. So ICM, please, if you're going to re-release, can you just move that pitot to a separate piece? Then your kit will be absolutely spot on, I think. So hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, please do remember, Imperial thumbs up on the like button below, because every like counts. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, please do subscribe to the channel and hit that bell, and you'll be notified of all my future videos as they are published. In any case, I hope you come back for the next kit of the week and many, many more thereafter. Thanks very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care now and goodbye.